In this video, I'm going to introduce you to basic networking topics such as LAN, VLAN, broadcast domain, subnet, trunking, inter-VLAN routing. I'm going to use VLAN, which is the basic building block of networking, to explain all these topics in this video. VLAN is the basic concept of networking, and explaining everything using a PowerPoint presentation or just talking through it, it might be boring. So I decided to use Cisco PacketTracer to explain to you in detail. So before we go to VLAN, let's understand LAN. You can define LAN as a collection of devices connected together in one physical location, such as a building, office, or home. And VLAN provides a way to group devices within a LAN. Say in this case, I have a 3-story building. I have 3 switches, one for each story, and you have a bunch of devices in each floor. All these devices in these 3 floors combined together make the LAN. And there are 4 different units in the building: sales, accounting, marketing, and admin. So each floor switch has a dedicated VLAN for these 4 departments. So all these 4 VLANs combined together make the LAN. As you can see, VLAN 10, 20, 30, 40 belongs to these 4 departments, and each VLAN is associated to a subnet. The basic idea of VLAN is the logical separation of traffic between departments. Say, for example, sales do not want their traffic being seen by accounting, and accounting doesn't want their traffic being seen by marketing, and so on. And VLANs are exactly designed to provide separation between these traffic. Let's go back to our packet tracer and start to configure the VLANs in one of the switch. I'm going to configure this switch and use as a template to use in the other 2 floors, because I do not want to configure 3 switch. It's going to take a lot of time. This is like, think about, you want 3 exactly same switches in 3 floors, and you just configure one switch and have the config copied over to other 2 switches. So I'm going to exactly do the same thing, just configuring one switch, copy and paste that to other 2 floors. Enable show int status, and you can see all these ports are on VLAN 1. One of the main important concept of VLAN is a VLAN is a broadcast domain. The frames are addressed to reach every computer on a VLAN if they are addressed to MAC address FFF. All of them are F. That means this is a hexadecimal number. If all of the host bit on a IP address is 1 or F, that packet is called a broadcast packet. When you buy a new switch, all these ports are on VLAN 1. That means if a broadcast packet sent from port FA01, that will be heard by all the ports in the switch. So now what we are going to do is we are going to configure 4 VLANs, and unfortunately this switch is a 24 port switch. So I'm going to divide them up into 4. So 6 ports goes to each VLAN. To configure a VLAN, go to the configuration mode and type in VLAN 10, name sales, and show VLAN. And now you can see all 4 VLANs have been created. When you create a new VLAN, you will not see any port on that VLAN. You have to assign ports individually to these VLANs. I'm going to assign 6 ports each for these 4 VLANs. Conf t int fa01 switch port access VLAN 10. The way of assigning these VLANs individually to each port is going to take a lot of time. There's another way to do it faster. So I'm going to do it by using a range command. Int range fa0 2 to 5 switch port access VLAN 10. If you can see here, sales now has 5 ports. So I need to assign one more port. If you press the up arrow key, you will go to your previous commands. I'm going to go to port 7 to 12, copy and paste this command, copy, paste, and I'm going to change the VLAN to 20, go up again, 13 to 18, 30, 19 to 24, VLAN 40. And show VLAN, and now you can see only these 2 uplink gig ports belongs to the default VLAN 1. We have 6 ports each on each of these 4 VLANs. So let's go to the switch again. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste. That is Control C, Control V, and I'm going to name them first floor IDF, copy, paste, second floor IDF, third floor IDF. And if you hover over your mouse, you can see these switches are exactly configured like the first switch. So I do not have to configure each of them individually. Now I'm going to connect all these switches using the trunk link, and I'm going to show you how VLANs communicate using these trunk links. Select the auto connection, and now you can select this one and select what port you needed. I'm going to fast forward the connection. Let's look at the configuration. Enable show int trunk, and you can see there's no trunk configuration. Conf t int gig 0 1 switch port mode trunk, switch port trunk encapsulation. It is not giving the encapsulation command, so that means when you make a port as a trunk, encapsulation is already included with that command. Let's see how this trunk port is behaving now. Show int trunk, and you can see it is trunking, and all the VLANs are allowed on the trunk, and these are the VLANs active on the trunk. So we are going to use the same command on all the trunk links. So now we bring in some PCs to these ports and see how these devices communicate between these different VLANs. Now I have configured all of these PCs and trunk links. There are 4 PCs in the switch, 1 PC for each department. There are only 2 PCs in the second floor switch, 1 for accounting, 1 for sales, and there are 4 PCs in the first floor switch, each belongs to each department. I have assigned the IP addresses for each PCs that is displayed here. So the concept of VLAN is the devices within the VLAN can communicate between each other because it is just one broadcast domain. Let's go to this marketing PC and see whether we can ping this marketing PC. Both are supposed to be on the same VLAN. Go to the command prompt, ping 192.168.3.10. Of course, you can ping this PC because they are on the same VLAN. And now let's go to this sales PC and ping this sales PC here. Command prompt, ping 192.168.1.12. You can ping. And do the same with this admin PC. But let's see whether we can ping this accounting or marketing PC from this admin PC. Ping 192.168.3.11. And you can see the ping is not working. That means you cannot communicate between VLAN without a router. You need a router for the Inter-Vlan routing. You can use a router that is a layer 3 device, or nowadays you can use layer 3 switch. That is a multi-layer switch. So let's bring in a multi-layer switch and configure Inter-Vlan routing. I'm going to introduce a multi-layer switch here. I would say core switch, and I'm going to connect this to this one because I need a port available, a gig port available for this connection. So let's bring in a connection from here. I'm going to put that to a gig port, and here also I'm going to put that to a gig port. Go to CLI, and I'm going to configure the SVI that's called switched virtual interface for these VLANs. Enable conft VLAN 10, name sales, int VLAN 10, IP address 192.168.1.1. The first IP goes to your gateway, and subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. I'm going to configure VLAN 20, name accounting, int VLAN 20, IP address 10, 10, 10, 1, 255.255.255.0. For these VLANs to communicate, you need to enable IP routing. If you look at show IP route, there's nothing in the IP routing table. And now it's time to enable IP routing. Conft IP routing, and now let's look at the IP routing table, show IP route. So even after you enable IP routing on this switch, show IP route, the routing table is empty. The reason is you did not allow these VLANs to communicate between each other using the trunk link on this layer 3 switch. This is like you configure sub-interfaces in a real router. You need to create sub-interface for each subnet if you are using a router instead of a layer 3 switch. So I'm going to go to this layer 3 switch, show int trunk there's nothing configured on the trunk. So let's go to that port, conf t int gig 01 switch port mode trunk, command rejected. Let's enable the encapsulation, switch port trunk encapsulation .1q switch port mode trunk, because this multi-layer switch is different than the layer 2 switch, because in the layer 2 switch you did not have to specify this one. When you make the port as a trunk port, encapsulation come with that. In here you have to specify the encapsulation before make the port as a trunk. And show int trunk. Now you can see all the VLANs are allowed on this trunk port, and these 3 VLANs are active on the trunk port. We have to do the same thing on the other one. Conf t int gig 02 switch port mode trunk and show int trunk. You can see both of the ports are trunking. Even though in this side these 5 VLANs are active on the trunk, we only have configured 2 VLANs in here. So only 2 VLANs are active on the trunk. If you add the VLAN 1, that's the third VLAN. Now let's see the routing table. Show IP route. Now you can see the entries in the routing table. These 2 VLANs are directly connected. C means connected. Now let's see whether we can ping the sales PC from the accounting PC, because we have only 2 VLANs configured on the routing. I'm going to go to this PC, ping 192.168.1.10. So I'm pinging sales PC from the accounting PC. So the reason is I did not have specified the gateway. If you look at here, IP config, gateway is empty. You remember the gateway for the VLAN is 1. Close this one and go here and configure the gateway, that is 10.10.10.1. Now let's see the ping works. It's still not working. Yep, now it's working. Because you will lose the first ping when you are trying to ping an IP for the first time. That is how the ARP find out the IP to MAC correlation. So this is how VLANs work. They are actually separate broadcast domain. If you want to allow communication between these VLANs, you need to enable Inter-Vlan routing using a multi-layer switch or a router. If this video is useful to you, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more of this kind of videos, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification.